Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for visiting the YouTube channel for bestbiblecommentaries.com. In this video, I'm going to talk about 7 different Bible commentary series that are technical in nature. Before I do that, I invite you to subscribe to this channel if you like seeing videos on biblical studies resources. Clicking the thumbs up button on my videos really helps me out on YouTube. I appreciate you considering doing that. And feel free to leave a comment or ask a question down below. So like I said, I'm going to talk about 7 different technical commentary series, and that's in distinction to other types of commentaries. I'm going to put a link in the description box down below to an article that I wrote on my website that talks about the different kind of Bible commentaries, what would be the best one for your purposes. I help you narrow that down, and then I give you examples of each of the different types of commentaries. So technical is one type of Bible commentary, and so I invite you to read that article, and then this video will probably make a little bit more sense to you. All right, so all of these series, just before I begin, all of these series have varying degrees of critical approaches to Scripture. And so that's kind of the norm, at least for this video. So what I'm going to highlight is some of the conservatism I see in these volumes and in these series, not every series, because it's just not there. But kind of the anomaly for this particular video is the more conservative approaches, and so that's what I'm going to kind of highlight. So the first series I'm going to talk about is the ICC series, the International Critical Commentary Series, and it comes in a green hardback. There's a green dust jacket sometimes to this series as well. I just don't have it on this volume. And then there's these pink paperbacks. So Romans is in 2 volumes. This is Romans Volume 1, and this is Romans Volume 2, both the ICC series, both by C.E.B. Cranfield. Okay, more about these in just a moment. So the ICC series was started in the late 1800s, but interestingly enough, it's still incomplete. There are some books of the Bible that have seen many editions, different authors, but not every book of the Bible is covered in the series so far. I mean, and we'll give them a break because it's only been 125 years. So some of the best reviewed volumes in the series would be Genesis, Job, Daniel, Matthew, Luke, Romans. And some of you might want to add 1 or 2 to that list, and that's fine. But those 5 really stand out, or 6 really stand out as far as the academic reviews are concerned. And sometimes you just have to kind of read the reviews to know, or consult a website like mine to know which one is getting good reviews. So for example, the Matthew volume, it's the revised editions that have gotten really good reviews by Allison and Davies, which was published in 1988. One of the older volumes, a Luke volume, gotten really good reviews, was written by Alfred Plummer, published in 1896. So it's a little bit of a puzzle sometimes figuring out which are the best reviewed volumes in this series. The C.E.B. Cranfield is very well reviewed for Romans, and it was published in 1975. It replaced a previous Romans volume, and I don't remember who wrote it, but it's the Cranfield volumes that have gotten really high praise. So there's these green hardbacks. So we have to talk about the price with the ICC series. And a lot of times I think it's very much worthwhile to invest in biblical studies resources if they help you understand Scripture more. Of course, doing so with wisdom. But something has to be said for some of the green hardbacks in this series. Brand new can sell for upwards of $140, $150 per volume, per book. And so I don't remember the Romans one. This one, I actually got this for free in a box of used books I got recently. But so you just have to check the prices. The pink paperback is a more affordable alternative, but they're still going to cost you much more than commentaries in other series. So brand new, these pink paperbacks can go from $60 to maybe $75, somewhere in that range. Of course, if you can find one used, that would be even better. Quite technical. There's not even an English translation for this. Is Romans 1 verse 15, and it just gives the Greek, and there's not even an English translation for it immediately following. So the commentary, of course, the explanation is in English, but it assumes that the reader has working knowledge of the Greek. So anyway, you can find the green hardbacks used as well, but if you want them new, it is going to It is quite the investment. I'll just say that. If you're not familiar with this series, I think a good place to start would be the Cranfield volume for conservatives. I think the good place to start would be the Cranfield on Romans. The pink paperback is going to be your best option. Finding the pink paperback used is going to be the most affordable option. All right, the second commentary, so I'll put that over there. Second commentary series that I'll talk about is the Continental Commentary Series. And my books are falling over here. So the Continental Commentary Series, let me just get that in the frame a little bit better there. It's a big book. It doesn't actually say Continental Commentary Series on it, but just take my word for it. So this was published by Augsburg Press, and then it moved over to Fortress Press, I think in the 80s maybe, but I'm not quite sure. But so if you find a used copy and it's Augsburg, that's fine. But Fortress Press just means it's a little bit more recent. So this is an interesting series. There's a little bit of inconsistency with the volumes because some of the earlier commentaries in this series were English translations of scholarly German commentaries, and then some of the more recent volumes in this series are original. They were written in English, so I don't think that people in ministry, I don't know if pastors would benefit in any way from the commentaries that were translated from German. They're just very technical. Some of the commentaries that were originally written are newer and were written in English. Might be a little bit more helpful. I've seen some reviews on those volumes. It says maybe a little bit more mid-level. Some of the newer ones. I don't know what's happening with this series. There hasn't been any New Testament volumes published since 1993, and the most recent Old Testament volume was the early 2000s. Jacob Milgram wrote Leviticus. I think that's 3 volumes, if I remember correctly. And that came out in the early 2000s, so I don't know if they're done or what. The series is not complete, though. Some of the best reviewed volumes are that Leviticus volume by Jacob Milgram. It is over 2,700 pages in length. And another one is the Ecclesiastes volume, is well reviewed by Norbert Lofink, I think is how you say his name, and that's one of the ones that was translated from German into English. All right. Third is the JPS Torah Commentary, another big commentary here. Try and get it in the frame. It's pretty big. Well, that's about the best I'm going to be able to do. So the JPS Torah Commentary Series. So JPS is Jewish Publication Society. It's usually referred to as the JPS Torah Commentary because initially it's just the books of the Torah that were covered in the series, and then they expanded into other Old Testament books. But I'm noticing that the title here, it doesn't say JPS Torah, it just says JPS Bible Commentary Series. So that's probably the name of it. So again, it's a technical commentary. There's a lot of interaction with the Hebrew, and this series is also written from the Judaic worldview. So there's not much interaction with making connection to the New Testament. For instance, it's critical. Conservatives may not think that the JPF series is worthwhile. But one of the interesting things about this book is that it opens from left to right rather than right to left. So as you read this book, you're actually looking at it, using it this way. Okay, commentary to Ecclesiastes, and let me just show you a page so you can see what the content's like. A little bit different layout too. So I have the Hebrew on the upper right, the English translation on the upper left, and then the commentary is underneath. The commentary itself is not real dense. There's not a ton of information. This commentary, I think, is a little over 100 pages in length, if I remember correctly. And Ecclesiastes, it's 12 chapters, so that's not a lot of content. I don't remember the price point on these, but you can usually find them used. I don't remember the new price point, but you can usually find them used for a pretty decent price. Some of the best reviewed volumes in the series are, again, Jacob Milgrom, his Numbers volume. Exodus by Nahum Sarna is also very well reviewed. One of the interesting things about this series, because it's written from a Judaic worldview, is that there's lots of interaction with rabbinic literature. I don't know what pastors or seminary students would do with that, but depending on how you like to do your exegesis for your sermon preparation, or maybe seminary students would benefit from the interaction with the Hebrew. The next one, the forms of Old Testament literature. This series focuses on form critical analysis of Old Testament books. So it has a narrow scope. Some have even questioned whether this commentary series is actually whether the books are actually commentaries. I don't have a strong opinion on that either way, but I think that pastors and those using commentaries for ministry in the church in different ways, I don't think would benefit from this series very much. I think scholars, and perhaps not even all of them, Hebrew scholars, I think may benefit from this, as long as they're interested in genre, setting, structure type of discussions. That's really what this narrow focus is. That's why it's called the forms of Old Testament literature. So you're not going to find theology, definitely not going to find application. This volume's pretty well reviewed. 1st and 2nd Chronicles, also 1st and 2nd Samuel by Anthony Campbell is also well reviewed. Personally, I don't have a lot of experience with this series, so that's about as much as I can say. Number 5 out of 7 is the Anchor series. And I'm actually going to show you one of the newer ones. This one came out maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Stephen Cook has written some other biblical studies materials. Some of you might be familiar with that name. So this used to be the Anchor Bible series. Anchor Bible series, and then Yale Publishing took it over. I'm not sure what year, maybe like 20 years ago, Yale Publishing took it over, and it became the Anchor Yale Bible Commentary Series. So some of the older volumes are just going to say Anchor Bible, but the content is the same unless there's been a replacement volume. There are some Jewish authors in this series. There are some Protestants, and there are several Catholics. They're mostly critical approaches, and there's not much theology, and there's no application, and that's usually the case with critical commentaries. Volumes are still being published in the series. Like I said, I think this came out like 2018, maybe, somewhere in there. And the recent volumes tend to lean all critical, pretty critical. So conservatives would just read with discernment, I suppose, or they might be interested in finding a different option. So for those who want a critical reading, then Anchor might be the right series. The New Testament volumes have a red cover design to them. Some of the best reviewed volumes in the Old Testament would be Jacob Milgrom, Leviticus, Robert Bowling on Judges. Some of the New Testament volumes are, so I would say the top 4 probably are Luke and Acts by Joseph Fitzmyer, John by Raymond Brown, and James by Luke Timothy Johnson. And some of you might want to add to that list, that's fine. But what's interesting about those 4 authors is that they're all Catholic. So Raymond Brown, who wrote the John volume and also the 1st and 2nd and 3rd John in the Anchor series, is Catholic, but you should also know that there is another Bible commentator named Raymond Brown, who is an evangelical, who has written I know he's written commentaries in the Bible Speaks Today series and maybe some others too. And I have seen people confuse those two Raymond Browns in Amazon reviews and get very frustrated that they bought one commentary by Raymond Brown and they thought it was the other Raymond Brown. And then they take it out on the Amazon reviews, which is kind of not fair in my in my opinion. It's their mistake. So anyway, it's a variety of theological perspectives in the Anchor series. All right, the next one is the Hermenia series. Very large, very large commentaries in this series. I think you can get it in the frame there. So this is one of the more well-reviewed ones, Hebrews by Harold Attridge. So the Hermenia series is extremely technical. The older volumes in the series interact a lot with German scholarship, but the newer ones don't as much. This is one of the newer ones, also one of the most popular ones. Some of the best reviewed volumes in the series would be Daniel by John Collins, and this Hebrews volume by Harold Attridge. Pastors, I think, will not find much in this series to help them directly with preaching and teaching. Now, depending on how a pastor or a teacher in a church does their exegetical work, maybe a technical commentary like this will come in helpful, but you're not going to find theological reflection. You're not going to find application help, nothing like that in this series. And this is very technical. I would say even a working knowledge of Greek is not going to help you that much in this series. Those who are proficient in Greek are really going to be the ones to maximize commentaries in the Hermenia series. All right, so probably the most conservative one, the series that I'm going to show you, and there's some conservative volumes in some of these other ones, like Cranfield here on Romans, but as far as an overall approach, the NIGTC series, the New International Greek Testament Commentary series, is going to be the most conservative of the 7 up here. This is likely, if a pastor is going to use a technical commentary series, this is the one that's probably going to be most helpful. Though you will find some critical views in the volumes, and it just depends on the author how critical they will be. They're not critical in the sense that authors in some of these other series that I've shown you, they're not that critical. They're moderately critical, leaning more toward conservative, but some people don't like any critical comments in their commentaries, so it kind of just depends on the reader. There is some theological reflection in these commentaries in the NIGTC series, and it really just depends on the author of how much. Some you can just tell that the theological reflection is important to them, and so they're going to make sure, and maybe it might just be that they're ending passages in the commentary with some theological reflection that a pastor can use to kind of start thinking through the application process of a passage. But most of the vast majority of the content is going to be technical in nature. The set is still incomplete, and so volumes are still being released, especially with the Philippians volume by Peter O'Brien being pulled. We talk about that in a different video if you're interested in why Peter O'Brien's commentary was pulled from the series. But it is an ongoing series, so it's incomplete, but I know that there are revisions going on of currently existing volumes. So I do believe that the series will be completed eventually, and some of the older ones that have gotten really good reviews are already being updated. So that's a good thing, because this is an excellent, a very, very well-reviewed commentary series, top-tier commentary series based on aggregate reviews. Some of the best reviewed volumes in this series would be G.K. Beale on Revelation. This one, R.T. France on the Gospel of Mark. I. Howard Marshall, who's one of the editors of the series, on the Gospel of Luke. Hebrews by Paul Ellingworth, and there's others as well. There are not many poor reviews or even average reviews of commentaries in this series. They're all above average to just excellent. I know a reviewer who calls this a masterpiece. Beale's is considered by most to be the best commentary on Revelation, and it's technical. That's very rare for a technical commentary to be considered the best in its class, on a particular volume, a particular book of the Bible. But Beale has achieved that. It's just extraordinary. So really an amazing series, and so glad that Erdman's is continuing it. Okay, so those are 7 technical commentary series. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for visiting bestbiblecommentaries.com.